changes, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point. Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So let's shoot from there straight to Demi Ekotny. Demi Ekotny. Once again, I got to go to the hard copy here. Yeah, you know, the Daily News runs a comic strip, but apparently there's room for humor on other parts of the paper than the comic strip. They have now brought a little bit of humor to the editorial page in today's editorial. Steadfast. That's a great word. Steadfast. PDN remains committed to being Guam's most trusted source for news. I'm sure glad they told us that.
But when your competition is that other publication,
yeah,
it's not that difficult.
Exactly. When there are degrees of trust, right? Yeah. We start out with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. When you are finished changing, you are finished. The Pacific Daily News has undergone many changes over the 70 years we've been in business, but our commitment to reporting unbiased and accurate news remains unchanged. No! At the top of the list, the PDN's recent changes is ownership, a critical moment for a local newspaper whose interests are now being driven and led by a local owner who knows, understands, is intimately connected to Guam's people and businesses. Yeah, well, and then I look at the editorial cartoon. It's okay, but so often the editorial cartoon is far left, hard left. Nowadays, everybody wants to pick on what's his name, Jones.
Alex Jones, but what's strange about this is I don't, unless you really, really are far right or delve into stuff outside of here and don't listen to The Point, you're really not going to know InfoWars or Alex Jones.
No.
It has nothing to do with Guam.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
And they've been running like several of them for the past couple of months now. A lot of Alex Jones stuff.
Yeah. Well, I suspect that you can take the word Gannett off the masthead, but you're not taking it out of the rest of the paper. Okay, so they go on to say, we at the PDN take seriously our responsibility to the island as a paper of record, a distinction few can claim when it comes to having an archive of news and information available to our reporters who use it to provide essential context and depth in our stories. We've been here to bring... yeah. We've been here to bring you the latest information about our government its financial state, and the leaders in charge. From local elections, regional events, and even news from Guam residents who have gone on to build lives, careers, and reputations throughout the world, to sharing the highlights of Guamanians serving in the armed forces, PDN has remained committed to keeping our readers connected with the latest news, and as our social media platforms have proven, each other. As the 2022 primary election approaches this weekend, we urge readers to keep your mobile devices connected to pdn.com, guampdn.com, or other social media platforms for the latest voter information. And don't forget, reader tips are always welcome. Send your tips via email to news@guampdn.com. We remain steadfast in our mission to report news as we evolve, adapt, and incorporate newer and better ways to communicate with readers of all ages, especially as we add new names and welcome faces back to our pages. Welcome faces. And right next to the editorial, I see the face of Lee Weber. And a column headline, "Your vote is extremely powerful," which I dealt with yesterday. But the really interesting thing is the words above the headline of the column. It says, "Hombre Gatson," which is the tag that Lee hangs on his op-eds. So this is not a letter to the editor. This is a column that the Daily News has run. When it ran in the Daily News back in the day, the name of the column was Hombre Gatson. When it ran at the Post, it was Hombre Gatson. And now it's back in the Daily News, Hombre Gatson. So with respect to that, I only have one thing to say. Hombre Gatson? So, especially as we add new names and welcome familiar faces back to our pages. Whether you read our news in print or catch our latest updates on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or GuamPDN.com website, the PDN remains committed to being Guam's most trusted source of news. You're going to have to work a little bit harder, Daily News, and start right out with your editorial page. Don't try to fool us into thinking the stuff that you put out, the feel-good stuff, the recast news stories, and some of the other stuff, the softballs that you pitch out there. Don't try to convince us that those are real editorials, because we know the difference. Okay, now we proceed to the card. And let's see what I've got on the card today. Of course, I start out with Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism. And, I think, Jose, you were out doing some investigative reporting over the last couple days, right? And you found another example of systemic racism. Let's show that to our internet. There it is. Yeah. So you found the red truck.
I found it slithering along the road.
Where was it?
It was around Tamuning on, I don't know the name of that road, GPO area.
The GPO area, huh? The road beside GPO?
The one that goes all the way to, I know landmarks now. I lived here on Guam too long. The one that goes towards St. Anthony.
Yeah, well, that's Hospital Road. They've given us some other name, but
I need road names.
It's like Camp Watkins Road. Everybody knows where Camp Watkins Road is. No one knows where Governor Carlos Camacho Memorial Drive is. Yeah. So Hospital Road is Hospital Road.
Okay, Hospital Road.
Yeah, you're safe. So you saw it driving on Hospital Road or parked?
Going towards the ITC building, yeah.
Yeah.
At a stoplight.
Okay, so we spotted this same red truck at Touray on Saturday, and I mentioned that I had a little chat with, I guess the guy's name was Mr. Culligan, when I said something like to him, like, nice red truck. And he said, "What do you mean, red truck? It's orange." So, you can imagine where
Caution him.
Yeah, you can imagine where that conversation went. So Mr. Culligan was driving down that same street, huh? Well, thanks, Jose. And that's why you're probably the best producer in the business. Just because it's 1800 and your voice is not going out to our international radio listening audience doesn't mean that you're not on duty for Tall Tales.
24/7.
24/7. Thank you, Jose. Okay, so much for systemic racism. Next on the card, we have Daily Post versus Michael San Nicolas. I guess since they don't have Lee Weber as a regular column, they're going to run their Michael San Nicolas bashing story as a regular feature, right? And then I got to finish up politicians versus innocent, helpless humans, and Levin versus Bell's Law. I think I've got one more person to talk about today. And then I've got Doug versus Levin, Priscilla Tuncap versus the Civil Service Commission, Voti versus false race narratives, Turley versus Garland, the incredible shrinking Merrick Garland. I probably won't get that far anyhow. But that's the card. I don't have any new Public Law 3634 items today. I'm just once again, though, going to remind everybody that on the 18th of August, Gita entertained this new business. Ratification of Resolution 22-019 relative to ratifying action taken at prior board meetings from July 2022 relevant to waiver of notice and consent to take action by unanimous consent relative to approving the selection of Bank of Guam as financier for RFP 22-01 and taking related actions. This thing just doesn't sound right.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Yeah. And where is this daily news that's out there, being the most trusted news source? This of course, ran in the Daily News. I suspect no one at the Daily News looks at
Right
this.
under their noses, a big story.
Exactly. All right. Post versus Michael San Nicolas. In February 2019, this is GPD, investigation into complaint against delegate associates closed. Still news, though. In February 2019, at a popular Tamuning restaurant, Joseph Flores, then an employee of Michael San Nicolas, said he had a conversation that could have been heard in countless mob movies. I like Goodfellas. As far as mob movies are concerned, I think that may have been the best one of all, right?
True story.
Yeah. Yeah, Howard, what was his name? Howard Hill. Yeah. I need you to do something, Flores alleged. Excuse me, quote, I need you to do something, Flores alleged. A meeting with two associates of San Nicolas began during an interview Monday on News Talk K57 with Patty Arroyo. He quickly learned the request was concerning John Paul Manuel, a former campaign manager for San Nicolas, who initiated a congressional ethics investigation over the delegate allegedly accepting an improper cash donation. Quote, the big man, Michael San Nicolas, knows about this, that we're going to meet with you and this and that, Flores alleged. He was told. Quote, we want to hire you to do a hit on John Paul Manuel. I don't think they're talking baseball.
Or the Guam Daily Post.
Yeah. Flores said the two associates who approached him with the offer, Benji Paris and Tomas Calvo, also were employees of the delegate at the time. The Congressional Committee inquiry into San Nicolas ended with a unanimous bipartisan conclusion that substantial evidence exists San Nicolas committed a crime and tried to cover it up. Substantial evidence, again. The report and other evidence have been forwarded to the U.S. Department of Justice, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation confirmed it initiated a review of the information. The FBI stated that it does not confirm or deny any active investigation it's conducting. But now back to Flores, back to the story.
Oh, back to the story.
Yeah.
That wasn't part of the story.
No.
Oh.
Now that we've gotten that in there for the 417th time, right? For his part, Flores brought the details of his discussion to the police department with the hope it would investigate his claims or bring his allegations to federal authorities. Quote, "I'm working for you guys, so you let me know when, and it's going to be a high price," he recounted saying the day of the meeting to Arroyo. In other words, Flores said that the two guys, Tomas Calvo and Benji Paris, said, "We're going to pay you a lot of money for this," right? Bora said that there was no follow-through with the plan, including establishing a price or time for the hit. Now, who is Bora? We've got John Paul Manuel, Michael San Nicolas.
So Flores is the person.
We've got Flores. And Bora said there was no. So is this the third man? Am I going to go back to see if we can find that zither music for break music? Is Bora from the 19th floor? Is that what you're trying? Yeah, now I think what they mean, they don't mean Bora, I think they mean Flores. There is a difference. Yeah. So I'm going to proceed on the basis that they just put the wrong name in here. And apparently they're saying Flores said there was no follow-through with the plan, including establishing a price and time for the hit. The Post reached out on Monday to San Nicolas and his gubernatorial running mate, Sabrina Salas Matanani, for a comment on the allegations, but no response was given as of press time Tuesday. GPD confirmed for the Post that after consulting with the Office of the Attorney General, it closed the case without taking further action. Probably decided there was no case there from the get-go, Jose. No information was forwarded to federal law enforcement, said Officer Berlin Savella, GPD spokesperson. While GPD did not disclose the specific reason for the action, cases may be closed without arrests or charges filed when law enforcement believes no crime was committed, or even if a crime was committed, if the statute of limitations prevents prosecution. That might have been a good way to start the story if you got to write about this.
Right.
Yeah. Only 2 crimes are outside the statute of limitations under local law: murder and the rape of a child. Coming forward and making allegations over public airwaves is not what Jay Areola, a criminal defense attorney, would counsel his client to do. The Post reached out to Areola to learn how practicing lawyers may recommend witnesses or perhaps co-actors in crimes cooperate with law enforcement. Whenever anybody is solicited to commit a crime, whatever that person does will affect whether they get charged with a crime, Areola said. That person should be careful in what they admit or don't admit. Any evidence a witness participated in substantial steps To further conspiracy could have legal consequences, Areola said, and any public statements made could undermine a witness credibility with law enforcement. Having lawyers represent their interests can help witnesses looking to navigate the legal realm of cooperation. You need your assurances from prosecutors and from the police that you're going to be okay. You won't be prosecuted, Areola said. They won't turn around later and say, quote, no, you sent us on a wild goose chase, or you're just as guilty, you started it. There's all kinds of liabilities to be worried about. And when these people make these allegations after the fact, they need to be concerned. So the Daily Post now has gotten into the legal advice business. So all you guys out there that want to enter into criminal conspiracies, make sure you pick up a copy of the Post,
but they'll still print them.
Because we're going to give you chapter and verse how to keep yourself out of trouble. Now, why would the Post run this long story from Jay Areola? I'll tell you why. Because people who read this story, and before they got to that, are saying, you know, no, police didn't do anything, the FBI didn't do anything, and here we are 3 days from the election. What's to stop me from thinking that this guy Flores didn't just make this whole thing up? Because he didn't do anything wrong. He knows he's safe. So he calls up Patty Arroyo and lays this slanderous rap again on Michael San Nicolas, right? He lays it out there. But when you ask a lawyer about making these extemporaneous public statements without the advice of counsel, you are taking a big risk. Does this add credibility to what Flores said? That's the reason that they ran.
Soft credibility.
Yeah, that's the reason that they ran it. Because, wow, that guy Flores really went out on a limb to do that, didn't he? And now look at the lawyer saying he could be in a heap of trouble. All right. Let me finish up, and I've got a few more comments on this. Flores' concern, he said, when he was reached by the Post, was helping out Manuel. The two reconnected about 3 months ago, just before Flores decided to file a complaint with GPD. Happened in 2019, right?
3 months ago.
Yeah. Now there is a crime called misprision of a felony. And it's too technical for me to talk about off the top of my head, but what it amounts to is having guilty knowledge of a felony.
Yeah.
And not doing anything with it. I got to go back to my own law books here and check this out a little bit. But if you know something like this happened, what is a citizen's responsibility? To say, well, they never offered me any money, so I'm just going to forget about it. Kind of the negative pregnant, an old-style legal expression. They never offered me, because they didn't offer me any money, I just forgot about it. Negatively pregnant with the idea that had they offered me enough, I'd have done it. I think that's probably what Jay Earl was talking about. Okay, back to John Paul Manuel. He was very traumatized. He's been threatened. He's scared. He's feared for his life, Flores said. That's when I turned around. So he's turned around because back to my suspicion here, that's when I turned around and realized that he's really been bullied for what he did. That didn't occur to me when the guys made me the offer. That's when I decided to file a police report. When asked by the Post what he would say to those skeptical of whether he's being truthful given the time that has passed since the alleged meeting took place and the timing of Flores going public so close to Saturday's primary election, he offered to take a polygraph test alongside anyone else named in his allegations. It means absolutely nothing.
Zero zilch.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
They've been watching too much TV.
Exactly. Yeah, sometime I'll tell you about polygraphs one of these days when I got a short card. But the polygraph is a tool that police use to extract confessions. That's what it's used for. Okay, and this is the last words from Flores. I hope the FBI gets involved. I hope they contact me. So there's a lot missing from this story. All three of them work for Flores. Two of the three that worked for Michael St. Nicholas. Two of the three employees approached a third one. Now, in order for this to have any credibility, we got to know a little bit about Flores. Is he a career criminal? Has he ever been busted before? Has he ever killed someone and gotten off on self-defense? Or is he just a really nice fellow that's a lot of fun to sit down and chat with at Linda's or King's?
Or why is he not an employee anymore?
Yeah.
That's another good question.
Exactly.
What's the circumstances of his departure?
Yeah, exactly. So, this is potentially news, but the timing, of course, is really bad. Now, if the editors of the Post had written it up properly and then said, but, it's too close to the election, we'll hold it to Monday, that would be wrong. They should run it when they get it. But they got to run it right. And to me, the significant part here, the really important part, is that the cops and the AG are not doing anything with it. That's the lead to this story, if you got to do anything with it at all. But you save that until last. Yeah. And you use it one more time as a vehicle to go through substantial evidence and all that whole thing. So a person reading this is saying, wow, that Michael St. Nicholas again. Now he's trying to have people killed. So it's an irresponsibly written story. There's enough here to make a story. But the way the story is set up is wrong. The key thing here is that regardless of what happened, the cops and the FBI aren't going to do anything with it. I suspect that somewhere in his office, our chief of police has a 10-foot pole, which he employed when this thing came in because he probably had the same suspicions that I did. After all this time, this guy is coming forward with something that is potentially damaging to him, and I'm supposed to go out and arrest Michael St. No. They send it to the Attorney General. A lawyer looks at it and said, no, it's just not there.
With their own 10-foot pole.
Yeah. But here's how it starts. In February 2019, at a popular Tamuning restaurant, Joseph Flores, then an employee of Delegate Michael St. Nicholas, said he had a conversation that could have been heard in countless mob movies, setting the tone of the story. Oh, there's some criminal act like the mafia. I need to do something, Flores alleged a meeting with two associates of Michael St. Nicholas when he started talking with Patty Arroyo. He quickly learned the request was concerning John Paul, and it just leads you right up to the denouement, which is the cops and the Attorney General said there's nothing there. But in the meantime, you've got this trowel. At one time I thought they were going to go into a side gig over there at the Post selling hatchets when they first started this on St. Nicholas. Now I think they're probably going to appeal to the stonemasons out in our community because apparently they have one of those tubs that masons use to mix cement. They apparently have one of those tubs there out behind the Post. But it's not filled of cement. It's full of mud. So they go out there with their trowel, and they get a good trowel of mud, and they try to smear it all over Mac San Nicolas for most of this story. And then finally they get to the end, and they ask Flores about it, and Flores says, and obviously, you know, this was part of the rap from the beginning. So what am I going to say when somebody says, why did you wait so long? Why are you doing this right before the election? How do we know that you're telling the truth? All you got to do is just say, I'll take a polygraph test. That'll turn off most of the folks. Not tall tales. No, that is a meaningless gesture. But it worked. The whole thing worked for him, didn't it?
I got some with tarot cards waiting in the wings so they can tell you the truth.
Yeah. Nice going, Guam Daily Post. And the sad thing is, it was such a good newspaper.
There is no denying that these past 2.5 years have brought unprecedented challenges, where our health, safety, and way of life have been completely upended as a result of COVID. Having served as governor during many challenges, I know a thing or two about the importance of strong and steady leadership in times of crisis. Trust me when I say that I have full confidence that Lou and Josh are the leaders Guam needs at this pivotal time in our history. Lou and Josh have led our island through some of our darkest times, and because they stayed the course, our island is on the verge of a recovery that will infuse life back into an economy thirsting for a fresh start. I've said it before, and I mean it still. People of Guam, you're still the one.
This is Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
So here we are. Let's just take a peek at Facebook and see what our international radio listening audience thinks about this story. And I'm using the story in the other sense of the word. You know, a story. It's just a story. Usually stories begin with once upon a time. And Daily Post, just for your information, Tall Tales is mine. You can't run Tall Tales in your newspaper and pretend that it's news. I have my own shtick here. Get your own. Okay, so let's see. Bonnie Suba. Let me get down here. And Brendan Foster says, welcome back, Real Joe. Let's go. The Real Joe Cruz does the morning show. We have Jose, which is a sort of a form of Joe.
Well, you know, kind of, my name is just Joe because the governor said I have no say.
Very good, Jose.
I'm just Joe.
Yeah. You used to be Jose, but now you have no say.
None.
So you're just Joe. Well, maybe Brendan was right. Yeah. But you're carrying the water with both shoulders now, right, Jose?
For another 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, so you're going to be the Real Joe Cruz in the morning show and Jose Martinez in the afternoon show. Have you worked out? Can you do the laugh?
Oh man, that takes a professional.
Yeah, but you can do it, can't you?
I can mouth it.
Let's hear it. Hey, that's just as good as a Real Joe Cruz. Thank you, Jose. Okay, let's see. Going on down here till we get to the Bonnie Suba. Sounds like the Sicilians mobsters. And Troy is here. Troy, I hope you're working on that Gita matter, and I hope you're working on that coveted Blue Star T-shirt matter for us too, Troy. Let's see here. Rico Blancaflore's got a pretty good one. Guam Daily Pulp Fiction. Yeah, it's very good. Maybe when they do the sequel, they could they could draft these guys to replace the actors like who was it? Samuel
Jackson.
Samuel Jackson and what's his name?
Top of my tongue.
Grease, the Grease actor. Travolta.
John Travolta.
John Travolta, yeah. We could cast those guys in the movie. Yeah, very good. And then we've got Dave Duenas. I see it as politically motivated. Man, that guy's he's got a mind like a steel trap. He penetrated all that stuff and sees it as politically. This is the kind of guy we need in the legislature with the analytical ability like that. Okay, Colin says, just another ploy to hinder elections. And Lonnie, thank you, Uncle Bob. It's a pleasure, Lonnie. And then Ellen Leon Guerrero, wouldn't he be just as guilty because he said it himself? He agreed to do it. Granted, nothing has been done, but he could be guilty for conspiring just to be admission to the agreement. Well, the law, here's an interesting aspect of the law of conspiracy. And again, I'm just giving you my own opinion without going back to the books here. But you need two elements for a conspiracy. One, you need an agreement to engage in a crime. And two, obviously you need two or more people, right? And two, you need to have at least one overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. So, as an example, if these guys were talking and Flores said, "Nah, I could do it, but I pawned my pistol, so I'm going to have to get it out of the pawn shop in order to do it." And he goes down and takes the pistol out of the pawn shop, and then they never get back to him. That might very well do it. It doesn't take much. One overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. So J. Ariel is exactly right. You got to really go through this thing with a high-powered magnifying glass, and he may very well have, especially when he says, that's when I turned. That's when I decided I wasn't going to do it. Apparently still holding out some hope that they're going to offer him some money. Somebody else here said, couldn't St. Nicholas sue him for defamation? And it looks to me, once again, horseback opinion here, that there's a really good chance, because if you lie about someone and you lie about that person committing a crime, that's the defamation per se, a very powerful form of defamation. Now, the defense, the difficulty that St. Nicholas would have is a case called New York Times versus Sullivan. New York Times versus Sullivan goes all the way back to the early 60s. And it says that if a public official brings a defamation suit, libel or slander, he must not only prove the elements of the tort, he must also prove that the statement was made with malice. All right. Now, like everything else, malice is one of those words that means something totally different to lawyers than it does to the rest of the world. It doesn't mean this. You think, well, with malice, that would mean like, if Hope Cristobal somehow libeled somebody when she was going through, or slandered somebody when she was going through that rant with Paul Zerzan. Remember, she could hardly talk. She had her teeth clenched. I mean, she was just so angry that it's amazing that the camera that she was using didn't blow a fuse. That wouldn't be malice. Malice is this. Malice means that the person who committed the tort did so with knowing that what he said was false. He has to know that it was false, or he has to say it with reckless disregard to the truth or falsity of the statement. Now, apparently, the Civil Service Commission folks have read New York Times versus Sullivan, because what New York Times versus Sullivan basically stands for is I did it in good faith and I didn't know what I was saying was false. And the Supreme Court said there has to be some breathing space here between tort law and the First Amendment's robust exposure of controversial topics to the public. So that would be the downside of San Nicolas trying to prove this. But given what the guy has said, it may very well be that he'd have to come forward and prove himself out of this, because it's pretty close to being right there what he told Patty Arroyo. And then, of course, if you could call Patty Arroyo as a witness, oh.
Well, that's why you hear a lot of the, quote, alleged everywhere, peppered everywhere. That's almost like the get out of jail free card.
Well, that's your New York Times versus Sullivan. I didn't say it was true. I'm just saying that it was alleged. I'm telling you what somebody else said. And when I repeated what somebody else said, I didn't know that it was false. Now, if you repeat what somebody else said and you know it's false, Sullivan doesn't help you. Or if you're so careless, like this guy Jones, if you're so careless that he'll come out and say, oh, I'm Alex Jones, you might have a problem.
And this is not a story with integrity in the sense that it's meant to do anything else but to put doubt, not to prove whether it happened or not.
No.
This is one of those questions where, did you get caught beating your wife? And no matter what you say, it's already there.
Yeah, it begs the question.
Begs the question.
Yeah. Probably the only people on the island who understand what that phrase means, right?
Our tailgaters.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a short break here, Jose.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
Get ready to save up and chow down with Pacific Points. Now you can redeem Pacific Points for UnoGo wallet credits and enjoy huge savings on food delivery. Order from over 80 restaurants and have it delivered straight to your door. Continue earning points when you fuel up at Shell, shop at Foodies, purchase ITNE prepaid load, and pay your monthly ITNE bill. Then get ready to claim your rewards. Learn more at PacificPoints.com. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
I wish we could play that song every day. The Entertainer from The Sting. Talk about criminals, huh? A great movie, because when the movie's over, you really like the criminals. You really think they're great guys, right?
Was that the one about pool? No. Thinking of a different movie.
It's Robert Redford and
Hustling, right?
Paul Newman.
Paul Newman.
Yeah, and
Ralph Cramden?
No, Ralph.
Different movie.
No, it's a different movie. And what happened was they were grifters. They were con men.
Oh, okay.
And one of their buddies got killed, and they knew who was responsible. And the killer was a high stakes gambler. So they set up this elaborate con to get the high stakes gambler to think that they could rig a bet in an illegal gambling parlor. And the guy, Robert Shaw, was the actor, comes in and puts, at the time, huge money down on this bet. And it's all just a con. And they take him for all his money. They take down the illegal gambling the parlor, and they're out of there. and no one is the wiser. It's a really great movie.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look. I was thinking of The Hustler, not this.
Yeah, that's Minnesota Fats.
Minnesota Fats.
Yeah, that's Ralph Crandon, also known as what's his name?
To the Moon.
Yeah,
I know his real name is.
That's a really good movie. Also, yeah, Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason.
Yeah,
There you go.
Jackie Gleason was well equipped to be cast as the lead character, Minnesota Fats.
He had the girth.
All right, so we're back to abortion now. Bistra Mendiola is next on the list. Bistra is we actually talked with Bistra on the phone, right? We had a long conversation when I had such high hopes for her. That's politics for you. The abortion, you got to do this. If you take up over a page, people are going to think you're sincere, right? And no matter how you come down on the issue, they're going to be with you. That must be the suspicion out there.
So she netty dogged us.
She netty dogged us, yeah. The abortion conversation is very difficult because of the way the public discussion is locked into pro-life versus pro-choice. Not on Tall Tales, Bistra. On Tall Tales, it's pro-abortion, anti-abortion. Where pro-abortion means that you can't give an answer to the question, when is it okay to take the life of a helpless, innocent human? You cannot answer that question. Okay, it's a very simplified and misleading way to frame a very serious and complex issue. Yeah, you already, right? You already know where she's going with this. I'm pro-abortion, but I want to see if I can soften it up to the point where I don't lose anybody here. It polarizes both sides to extremes, tending to silence those who can't identify fully with either option, which is most Americans. I kind of doubt that. An unborn child is the only reason abortion is or should be an issue of political discussion. I agree. If you'd have just stopped there. No sensible person today believes that one human being should take the life of another because they want to. All right. First, we must recognize the equality of both positions' moral traditions, accept public discussion, the need for compromise, the need to do everything possible to change the economic and social circumstance leading to the abortion choice, and the need for meaningful counseling of women considering abortion. So, Jose, let's say that I had a candle here on my desk, a burning candle. And I said, what do you think about me sticking my finger in the flame of that candle? How long would it take you to answer that? Well, you must consider the combustibility of the candle. You ought to have a thermometer to measure the heat of the flame. A medical opinion on the sensitivity of your index finger might be required. Arrangements for occupational therapy in the case of serious injury might be on your... the answer is don't do it. Historically, abortion was a popular means of birth control and family planning due to a lack of reliable contraception and the fact that childbirth was incredibly dangerous. In the 21st century, medical procedures have advanced tremendously. Options are available, including more effective birth control, better health care, health insurance, and sex education to ensure an unwanted pregnancy does not happen in the first place. But if it does, then we got to go back to the top of the page. We cannot solve the problem of injustice against women with more injustice, which would be a ban on abortion, apparently. We need better solutions that support women without killing fetuses. With that said, I also recognize the possibility of a grave injustice done to some women if state fully bans termination of pregnancies resulting due to rape, incest, or when a pregnancy is posing a significant threat to the mother's life. Now, back at the top of the page, she says this, second paragraph, an unborn child is the only reason abortion is, as it should be, an issue of political discussion. Is an unborn child conceived by rape or incest? Is it still a human being?
That's the question.
Is it still helpless? Is it still innocent?
Still the same.
Yeah. I can't wholeheartedly accept a rule of forcing a woman, or worse, a child, to carry a full term when she did not have any choice in the matter. Extreme approach to the issue of abortion is dangerous and unnecessary in this day and age. I call for a balanced approach to this controversy, a toned-down conversation that will create a truly just legislation without undermining the rights of both women and unborn children.
That's the number one question I have for those who claim to be anti-abortion, except for it's like that justification for saying I like this except or but or yes, you're mostly right, but well, tell me what changes between your anti-abortion stance to becoming pro-abortion. You know, what difference is the baby? And that's the main thing, because in a way you're justifying what the pro-abortionists are arguing for.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not the act of killing a baby that's wrong.
Bringing a child to fruition, to birth, there is no forcing anybody to do that. That's a natural occurrence. Forcing is the intentional abortion. That's a forced act.
Exactly.
And that's the question I have for those who have this, who are conflicted. Where is the conflict where you are agreeable with killing a human being?
Precisely, Jose. So, you know, what kind of Bistra is saying is this. Well, maybe not Bistra, but the other guys. You know, I'm a vegan, but my sister-in-law works at McDonald's, so I go in there for a Big Mac once in a while. But I'm still a vegan because I don't want to hurt my sister's feelings by making her think that I don't like the food that she serves where she works. But I'm still a vegan, yeah. All right, let's see. I suppose I've got Bistra on line one here. Let me check. Sandra So. And her response. Okay, well, it'll take I guess, Sandra, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang on to you until after the big halftime show, because I want to give you enough time to make your response without having to cut you off and then bring you back, okay? Jose, during this break, can you show us Johnny Utah?
We can do that.
Yeah, he doesn't have a beard, but he's a good guy.
Yes.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Voters call an end to a 30-year congressional career. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Democrats in New York's redrawn 12th congressional district in Tuesday's primary choosing Jerry Nadler to run for re-election in November.
The cost to Democrats was a powerful voice in Congress. Carolyn Maloney called it her privilege to serve and hopes more women follow in her footsteps.
Continue to open doors, end all forms of discrimination, and smash glass ceilings.
Nadler now moves on to face Republican Michael Zimblewskis in less than 3 months.
Fox's Gernal Scott. Nadler thanked Maloney for her long service in Congress. The races for governor and senator in Florida are set. Democrats choosing Congresswoman Val Demings to run against Senator Marco Rubio in the fall.
We're not looking behind us. Tonight we come looking forward. It's about holding America to its promise.
Senator Rubio says Demings has said some questionable things as a former police chief.
She called what Minneapolis was thinking about defunding the police. She said, that's very thoughtful. When people were in the street burning down cities, she said, oh, it was a beautiful sight. Now she says she's against defunding the police 2 years later. They didn't need you to say it now. They needed you to say it when people were burning the streets and torching police cars.
Former Republican Governor Charlie Crist has been picked by Democrat voters to run for his old job again against GOP incumbent Governor Ron DeSantis. President Biden today expected to announce forgiveness of up to $10,000 in student loan debt.
She called...
Forgiving federal college student loan debt will cost between $300 billion and nearly $1 trillion, $980 billion over the 10-year budget window, depending on program details. About 70% of debt relief accrues to borrowers in the top 60% of the income distribution.
Fox's Kevin Corke. America is listening to Fox News.
There is no denying that these past 2.5 years have brought unprecedented challenges, where our health, safety, and way of life have been completely upended as a result of COVID. Having served as governor during many challenges, I know a thing or two about the importance of strong and steady leadership in times of crisis. Trust me when I say that I have full confidence that Lou and Josh are the leaders Guam needs at this pivotal time in our history. Lou and Josh have led our island through some of our darkest times, and because they stayed the course, our island is on the verge of a recovery that will infuse life back into an economy thirsting for a fresh start. I've said it before, and I mean it still. People of Guam, you're still the one.
This is Governor Lou Guerrero, and I approve this message.
A federal judge will consider former President Trump's request to appoint a special master to oversee the handling of documents seized from his Mar-a-Lago home, giving his attorneys until Friday to give her specifics of what they'd like to see done. Twitter's former security chief has turned whistleblower on the company's security measures.
Former hacker turned executive Peter Zatko filing a complaint with not only the Justice Department, but also the FTC and the SEC, accusing Twitter of misleading regulators, investors, and users. Zatko says that Twitter's security vulnerabilities could open the door to misinformation and manipulation by foreign governments, accusing one or more staff members of being foreign agents. Earlier this month, a former Twitter employee was convicted of spying on behalf of Saudi Arabia. Twitter, in its defense, says that Zatko was fired from his senior executive role at Twitter in January this year for ineffective leadership and poor performance, adding that what we've seen so far is a false narrative about Twitter and our privacy and data security practices.
Fox's Susan Lee. The Internal Revenue Service says it's conducting a comprehensive review of safety at its facilities in response to what it says is an increasing number of threats following congressional approval of the spending bill that authorized the hiring of 87,000 new agency employees. A federal judge has ruled an Ohio college violated a student's Fourth Amendment rights when they made him pan his bedroom with his webcam before taking a test online.
The lawsuit was filed last year by Aaron Ogletree, who said the pandemic forced him during Cleveland State University's 2021 spring semester to take classes online to protect the health of his family members. He said he initially protested, but scanned his room before the chemistry test, fearing he would get a failing grade if he didn't. The judge ordered Ogletree's attorney and attorneys for the school to meet to determine what the next steps should be.
Fox's Lisa Lacera, and I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarte Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning Mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
So here we are, another great halftime show. Jose is so good at putting these things together. Today we had a special treat. We saw the legendary Johnny Utah on screen during the halftime show. So now when Johnny talks, when he calls in from Salt Lake City, you'll have a mental image of what Johnny Utah looks like. He's a pretty cool-looking guy, especially in that tall tail shirt. And the background is pretty exciting, too. I have a feeling that Johnny likes the Second Amendment portion of the show.
I think so.
Yeah. So open invitation to everybody. When your tall tail shirt gets to you in the mail, do a selfie and post it on Facebook. And, you know, if we like it, we might even give you the Johnny Utah treatment and post it during the big halftime show. But we want to see you in your tall tail shirt as often as possible. Okay, so I've got Sandra So on Sandra. I got to find out exactly how she pronounces it. Sandra, if it were French, it would be so. E-A-U would be O, the French word for water. If it were Samoan, it would be Siao. If it were English, I suppose it'd be Sia. How do you pronounce it?
It's Seao.
Seao. Okay. All right. So what can you tell me this afternoon, Sandra?
Well, I overheard that you were talking about people's responses to abortion, and I didn't respond to it. So I wanted to call in and give my response, if that was okay. It's not long.
Well, if you think you need special permission, I'll say this: permission granted. Go for it, Sandra.
Okay, so my stance on abortion is I am pro-life. You know, I hear the pro-choice people saying my body, my choice. But yes, that's your body. But the body inside of you is not your body. You know, and for me, that's murder. So I am against abortion, no matter the circumstances. And, you know, as a senator, I feel that, you know, even though I have a stance in something, that if people want to talk about it, if the constituents want to talk about something, whether you agree with them or not, you should listen to them, because you never know. These are people that probably voted you in, and they're voters. So you have to listen to them. And, you know, because maybe they may say something that may change your mind about something. But I have talked to some pro-choice people, and so far no one's convinced me otherwise. So my stance is I am pro-life no matter the circumstance, because that body inside of you is not your body. It's another body. And I've seen some people on social media getting reamed because they're men who have, their opinions about abortion. And people are like, well, you have no say because that's not your body. You're a man. But for me, I feel that men do have a say in it as well, especially if that baby is theirs.
You know, Sandra, you said it won't take long. When you're,
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But you said it wouldn't take long. But when you're right on target, and you're absolutely 100% right, it won't take long. It's when you're not, when you're on the other side, when you're on the baby killer side, that it takes a long, long time because you kind of try to camouflage it as much as you can. And that's exactly what I've been saying here as I go through these comments. Sandra, you said when you're out there in the campaign trail, it pays to listen. I'll give you a tip, and I won't even charge you for it.
Okay.
A political campaign tip, and that's this. One of the most powerful things that you can do when you're out on the campaign trail and you're amongst people is to give them a darn good listening to. People really appreciate that. So.
Yes, sir. And you never know. People have good ideas that, you can work on. So, yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun going out there, talking and listening to people. A little exhausting, but it's been fun.
Okay, well, nice talking to you, and I'll be looking forward to posting that selfie of you and your tailgater T-shirt right here on the point. So thanks for calling,
Yes,
Sandra.
sir.
All right.
Okay, you guys have a good evening.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Well, we finally found somebody who really understands what this is about. It's not complicated. A woman's right to her bodily autonomy. She can do whatever she wants to her body. If she wants to get a hatchet and cut her foot off, so long as it doesn't hurt the body, I don't think people would object.
Well, that's the, what did this come from, the Guam Daily Post? Yeah, they gave the question to the candidates, and then they gave them an exit, a way out with the second question. First question is, what is your position on providing access to abortion services in Guam? What is your position? And then the next one is, how do you feel about it? Other voters' position. And it muddied the whole water. Just ask one question.
Exactly.
That's all. And it's not that complex.
And a sharp question. Yeah, if anybody is going to do any wool gathering, let it be the people that answer the questions, not the ones that make up the questions. Okay, so we just finished with Bistra Mendiola, a big disappointment. We move on to Ian Catling. No response from Mr. Catling. Do you suppose the reason that he didn't respond is that he's too busy cattling? Have you ever seen a person cattling, Jose?
No, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to look.
Yeah. Next, we've got Harvey Egna. My position that this is an important issue should be positioned as a referendum so as the voters of Guam can decide. Then you don't need to be in the legislature, Harvey. If that's the way you handle important issues, you might want to run for just one term to introduce legislation that would abolish the legislature and replace it with an expanded election commission that can send every important question out to a referendum to the people. Then we have Shirley A. Mabini Young. And I've heard Shirley say that she wants a part-time legislature. That's big plus points. She's the only one that said that. It's kind of near the end of her commercial, but at least she's saying it. And here's what she says. As a potential returning lawmaker in the upcoming Guam legislature, I will continue to support the This is starting to go south already, isn't it? The education and training of individuals to help them improve their lives professionally and personally. As such, the more pressing question should be about the provisions for support, training, and education of individual responsibility and well-being when it comes to growing a family. I believe the act of seeking abortion services is what we all want to avoid. And having the community of Guam work together collectively to address this would be the first step. Yeah. I can't answer the question, so I'm just going to, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not verbalize. It'll come to me when the show's over, I'm sure. As in many states, the community of Guam is divided on this topic. So a combination of a comprehensive educational and citizen initiative is recommended, especially when making a critical decision on a very personal and important topic.
Now, we heard a story about a guy up in Jigo Gura housing that was attacked very viciously with a guy wielding perhaps a machete or some blunt object, and he was damaged in his head. Very horrific, short of killing him.
Yeah.
Now, if they do catch the perpetrator, are we going to see the same answer? More pressing questions should be about the provision for support, training, and education of individual responsibility and well-being when it comes to growing a good citizen.
Exactly. Because if we had done that, then this guy wouldn't be laying there with a broken head.
That's not the point of what we're asking here.
And that's exactly the reason that so many of them went down this trail, including Shirley Mabini. Yeah.
If the very first thing you do is ask the question that you always ask, Judge, when is it proper or when is it allowable to kill an innocent human being, then we wouldn't have this verbosity.
No. But at least on Tall Tales, this doesn't work. We just mark you in the pro-abortion category. The verbosity was the word I was looking for. We give you an A for verbosity and an F for answering the questions. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work here. I don't think it works anywhere else. You're not fooling anybody. You're not sounding like this caring, even-handed, impartial person who's trying to engage in the spirit of anaphomalic, try to make it good for everyone. That's not what you're doing. You're trying to come up with a rationale for taking the life of a helpless, innocent human, and there's just no getting around that. All right, so much for that part of the show. Let's go on to Doug Moylan versus Levin Camacho, who has been rechristened here on Tall Tales. He's no longer Levin Camacho. He is now known as Levin in January. Levin and January, right? But before I get into the main feature here, I want to go to something that I've had in my packet here since the 17th of this month, and I've just never gotten to it before. And this is a story that ran in the Daily News. Jay Areola, again, a really top-notch criminal defense attorney, top-notch divorce lawyer. Perhaps not the safest place to be if you remember the murder of a defense attorney back in the 80s, Jan Rubinstein, and her killer, whose name was Disson, was just murdered himself inside the prison. That's what that story was about.
Wow.
Yeah, Cesar Disson. Yeah. Okay, so the title of this story is Areola, we prepared for trial. And then judge dismisses case against Joey Terlahi. Now, you all remember Joey Terlahi was sucked up into the criminal case involving the mayor of Jonia, Mayor Blas of Jonia, drug dealing, misuse of post office boxes, kidnapping. It was a really bad case.
Friend of Angel Santos.
Yeah, well, Angel was able to take some time to go and testify at his hearing. After all, Mayor Blas was like a brother to him, and he should be given a little slack because of that. So Joey Terlahi was swept up in that whole case and arrested for official misconduct and a couple of other things. The case finally came on for trial, and here's how it goes. The case brought against Joey Terlahi, a former Department of Corrections deputy director, was dismissed Wednesday by Judge Alberto Tolentino, according to Terlahi's attorney Joaquin J. Areola. We prepared for trial. We filed all our witnesses and exhibits and our jury questions, said Areola. You don't wait to the day before trial to say, hey, we don't know whether she's going to show up or not. Terlahi was indicted in December of 2021 on one charge of felonious restate as a third-degree felony and 2 counts of official misconduct stemming from an incident at ex-Jonia Mayor Jesse Blas's ranch in 2017, according to Daily News files. On Wednesday, prosecutors filed a motion to continue the trial because they were unable to locate the main witness, Vicky Lynn Tarrageo, Blas's former girlfriend, whose name was all over this case, who is needed to prosecute the case. However, the judge denied the motion. Quote, she said she needed more time to talk to a lawyer about it, and that's when the government came in and said in their motion to continue the trial so that we can find the victim and determine whether or not she still wants to present the case, Areola said. However, according to Areola, the government has known where she was. They've always known where she was. And I provided all the federal court documents on Vicky Lynn's case, showing that she spent 3 months in jail, said Areola. She was denied her compassionate release while she was pregnant. She gave birth while in custody, and she was released in June of 2022 and is on supervised release in Saipan for 27 months. There's absolutely no reason why they couldn't pick up a phone and call her probation officer or the same probation officer and cite them and ask them where she is. So Vicky Lynn Tarrageo was the witness, was the victim of Terlahi's crime, Joey Terlahi's crime, and obviously they were going to need her to put on the case against Joey Terlahi. And as Areola said, he's ready to go to trial, and they don't know where she is. They asked for a continuance, the judge dismissed the case. And that's exactly what the judge should do. You know, you can't, you know, no matter what you think of Joey Terlahi or the case, and all of it is just bad. You know, everyone, no matter how heinous the accusations against him are entitled to a fair trial. And a fair trial is not when you wait all this time and then the prosecution says, oh, oops, time out. I'm not ready to go yet. So why I put this on, I don't know who the prosecutor in this case was, but this is another reflection on leaving in January. Because all of the news coming out of that office and everything we've heard is that we don't have enough prosecutors. We're down to 8 prosecutors now, when back during the Doug Moylan regime we had 20, plus 20, we had 28 prosecutors. And I think from the citizen standpoint, if there's a priority at the Attorney General's office, it's got to be prosecuting criminals, unless you're one of these Soros prosecutors in one of the major cities of the United States who take pride in not prosecuting cases. At least leaving in January hasn't said that. But it's a terrible mess. And I feel sorry for these people who are trying to do what they can, but they're constantly in a situation where they're trying to put 10 pounds of groceries in a 5-pound sack, and it can't be done. So here's an article dealing with Doug Moylan that ran in Candid Daily News, Candid News on August 22nd. Guam's first elected attorney general and the man challenging leaving in January for the seat says Guam's problem with crime requires, as part of the solution, a strong attorney general. Now, people who remember Doug's first term back at the beginning of the century, you may have some misgivings about Doug. Too flamboyant, too aggressive, etc. I haven't ever heard anyone say that Doug Moylan was a weak attorney general. Anything but. And I got to go through my 2 stale jokes again. Doug is an aggressive guy who will approach that office with a standpoint, my job is to lock up criminals, put them in prison. My job is to protect the innocent and prosecute the guilty, period, full stop, end of story. Where leaving in January seems to be saying, my job is to get federal grants like the opioid money. And my job is to enter my appearance in various class actions and be very active in the National Attorneys General Association. How about criminals, Mr. Leaving in January? Oh, yeah, well, okay, yeah. Not so much, but, that too. So my two means of getting this across is this, as far as Doug is concerned. As far as Doug is concerned, it's better to have to, from time to time, tame a tiger than to constantly have to prompt a pussycat into action. And that's what we've got. We've got a pussycat who we've got to constantly prod into action. Another way to look at it as far as leaving in January is concerned, no matter how hard you try, you cannot steer a parked car. So here's what Doug says. Doug Moylan, engaging with Candid's commenters on a story Saturday about a Woostic Road home robbery, said Camacho's failures have helped to allow crime to flourish. Moylan, whose crusade against crime and corruption began between 2003 and 2007, led to hundreds of successful prosecutions, said if elected, he will prioritize criminal prosecutions to send a clear message to criminals. Here's his full statement. A strong AG, being able to put together and keep a team of dedicated prosecutors working with GPD and the victims and get our juries to convict, then seeking maximum punishment from judges will deter and send a clear message to others of the harsh consequences of their criminality. I remain the toughest AG on crime and will bring that type of prosecution back if elected. If elected, we will bring back those dedicated prosecutors and work with the Department of Corrections to imprison the criminals. Right now, the Attorney General is incapable of effectively prosecuting crime since more than half of the 21 prosecutors left his office. Relief, recovery, and reform are the first order of business if our team is elected. Criminal prosecution and protecting the community is a first priority. Now I have leaving in January statement here. This is what it looks like. He hasn't said boo about criminal prosecution. All right, I've got somebody here in the group. I've probably got leaving in January in the green room. Oh, no, surprise. It's another Joe. Another Joe wants to talk about, we don't know, the state of health of Joes in the island of Guam. Good afternoon, Another Joe. Tell us what we need to know.
So regarding the Attorney General's qualifications and connected to the abortion issue, where AG Camacho, he really should just dissolve at I'm losing my train of thought here. It's an injunction joined to public law. What is it, 34?
Bell's Law. Yeah, he should move the district court to dissolve the permanent injunction that bars the enforcement of Bell's Law. That's what you're trying to say, aren't you?
Which I'm wondering if he's really actually siding with Democrats, and he's doing this intentionally to, and the effect is it's having all the Republican candidates stumbling all over themselves. Well, am I really pro-life? And, okay, it's no doubt, it's a human being. Right, and abortion is to our understanding, abortion is the intentional killing of a human being. If it was not intentional, it would be more along the lines of a miscarriage. So all these technical terms, so people get confused as to what do they believe, and then they throw in these things that touch your heartstring. Oh, well, it was your 10-year-old daughter. Okay, so here's my position, Uncle Bob. Okay, I have to when difficult issues like this come up, and it's moral issues and your faith issues, you have to turn to the teachings of Jesus. And who reminds us of that? Our priests in the church. And I've asked this question to some priests. I've asked, hey, Father, wouldn't there be some compromise to this abortion issue? How can you compromise a murder? It's murder of a human being. It really got to me like, okay, I got to learn more about this. So, I'm not, I have to be straightforward. It presents a feeling of conflicting feelings. Thinking it's your daughter, 10-year-old daughter, or relative. But the church teaches abortion is a murder of a human being. It's wrong. It should not be accepted. It should not happen. So I have to, in this difficult moment, when I'm only human, I'm a sinner, I have to turn to the church and the priest and teachings of Jesus Christ and say, hey, this is what we believe. We believe in our faith that we should not support abortion. And the thing about it, Uncle Bob, is you really have a law. So it brings the question to me, if that law, if Attorney General Camacho did the right thing and he dissolved that injunction to the public law.
Another Joe, we can only speculate. You kind of touched on it a little bit. The Democrats.
If you just did that, Uncle Bob, then all these things will be solved. But then the question will be, well, would there be pressure to change the law, or would it stay the same?
Well, going back to, you touched on it a little earlier, can we speculate that since the Democrat Party, part of the Democrat Party's platform is pro-abortion, and that, Levin may be a closet Democrat, he's not and a closet pro-abortionist. So Another Joe. So if you remember when I went through the article that I put in the Pacific Island Times about what Levin, it's not what he did, it's what he didn't do. He got to the answer he was looking for, and he stopped looking. And if he'd have looked a little harder, he'd have found the Indiana rule that went the other way. And my analysis was he should have done that, and that should have given him the colorable power to go forward and dissolve that injunction. And if Judge Gatewood said, you're right, the injunction is dissolved, that's good. If Judge Gatewood said, here's what the governing authority is, the injunction remains, Levin in January is off the hook. But as it looks, the way it looks to me, he just got the answer that he needed, not the answer that was right. He got the answer he needed, and he said, well, here it is. Abortion's legal on Guam. Oh, what's that noise I hear in the background? All the Democrats clapping and saying, go Levin, go Levin. That's what happened, maybe, Another Joe.
Yep, I think you're right, Uncle Bob. But again, what would Jesus Christ do? Do you believe in God? Do you believe in your Creator? In this difficult moment, you don't rely on what you think your wisdom is. You rely on what God's wisdom is. And this is one of those moments. And I should point this out to all the Republican candidates. Don't be confused. Are you Christian? Do you believe you're Christian? Turn to your faith and think and follow what they teach and believe, trust in God, and He will provide the answer. And if you feel conflicted, pray to God and I believe the guy will provide the answer. Anyway, thanks for your time, Bob. I'll just keep listening.
Yeah, good talking to you, another Joe. We're going to go to Wrigley Field now for the 7th inning stretch.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
So here we are, Wrigley Field, the 7th inning stretch, and during the time that everybody went up to get a bag of popcorn, we got a good look at Rico Blancaflor. It's a really cool-looking guy, and he really looks nice in that tall tale T-shirt. I hope you enjoy it, Rico. You're a sharp-looking guy in that shirt. Good call. Okay, going back to something that another Joe was talking about, you know, the religious aspect of abortion, and I've explained on the show more than once, I'm a Catholic, and you know, that's it. I mean, there just isn't anything to argue about if you are a Catholic. But I get there from several different ways. You know, I'm a human being. I have empathy for other human beings. I have some sense of justice, knowing that no one should ever be killed for no reason at all. No innocent person should ever be killed for any reason. And if the person is helpless on top of that, it's even worse. And as all humans are, I'm hardwired to have a little empathy. I try to put myself in the place of that poor, struggling baby in the womb. And if you've seen the ultrasound, you know he or she is fighting for life. And we're going in there and scraping and doing all of these horrible things. But then there's the Catholic religion, and the Catholic religion, of course, has been around for over 2,000 years and has been very consistent on this. You don't do that. We've got a pope right now that the question, you know, once upon a time, if you wanted to agree with someone, if somebody made a really good point and then would say, do you agree with me? A really good response was this: is the Pope Catholic? And of course, that won't work anymore because now we're not so sure. The Pope embraces people that brag about being pro-abortion. But the faith hasn't changed. And this is really interesting. Ishmael Velez posts this: Bob, my 9-year-old son was listening and says, quote, Daddy, no unborn baby should be killed for any reason, even if the doctors say the baby will be born with disabilities. Jesus died so we could live, including babies in the tummy. Now, how is it that a 9-year-old can get this when all of these mature folks in their 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s have to spend, page after page? Well, it's a serious issue. Netty dogging.
Because it's not complex.
It's not.
No.
It's not complex. The complexity comes in when you want to take an easy question and start netty-dogging, right, Jose?
Or giddying up. Geetify the situation.
Yeah, geetify it, right. Okay, let's see. Next I've got here an article I didn't put on the calendar, but I ought to get into it while it's fresh. Gita holds on to 1 million, as it were, 1.48 million Guam healthcare study. The administration continues to negotiate a long-term lease of military land in Manila to build a new government medical campus and hospital, according to the governor's office. As part of the planning process for the project, the Guam Economic Development Authority in May 2021 agreed to pay its contractor, Matrix Design Group, $1.48 million in federal funds to prepare several studies, including updated cost estimates, an examination of alternative sites, and what should happen to the current hospital when the new one is built. Most of the required reports were due to Gita months ago. And the final report, a master plan for the medical campus, is due by the end of this month. I got to stop here for a second. Ken filed a sunshine law request with the governor because the governor went on the air and she said the planning's all done. And Ken said, let's see it. And they're not showing her anything. They're showing him anything. Going on with the story. Gita has ignored several requests by the Daily News for a copy of the information. Gita Administrator Melly Mendiola in February said a draft report by Matrix was expected soon, which she would provide to the newspaper when she receives it. Mendiola did not provide any information to the newspaper during the following months, although Gita in July confirmed that it has received reports from Matrix. Is this the blue pill, red pill thing, or what are we giving? Just the blue pill now? They're hanging on to the red pill?
They're just injecting us with something.
Gita in July and August did not provide any of the Matrix reports despite several requests made by email and phone. Gita and Matrix are working on a, quote, medical and public health services action plan, so the administration will have information to, quote, strategically tackle the systemic medical and public health care challenges on Guam, including replacing the current hospital. The Army Corps of Engineers assessed the existing Guam Memorial Hospital facility in 2019, recommended that Guam build a replacement hospital at a cost of about $743 million instead of spending $761 million to renovate the current facility. The government of Guam currently has a 2-year license from the Navy for 102 acres in Manila, including the Eagles Field Sports Facility, so GovGuam can start preparing to build a new medical complex there. The governor has said she wants to build a hospital and medical campus in Manila, stating the site would be accessible to more residents. Guam already has a hospital in the north, she said. We do? You and I live in the north, Jose. Have you seen it?
Nope. Must be more north of us there.
Yeah. The new hospital could be required as a part of its lease to be capable of serving the military's medical needs, including a landing area for military aircraft. Navy Rear Admiral Benjamin Nicholson, commander of Joint Region Mariana, said in February, a Guam law signed in October allows the governor to sign a contract to finance, design, build a new government health care center, which will include a new GMH and new facilities for the Department of Public Health and the Guam Mental Health. The law authorizes up to $35 million per year in lease payments for up to 40 years on a lease-to-own basis. If Matrix completed all of its reports, Gita has information about the current state of healthcare in Guam as well as recommendations for its future. Matrix is required to complete the following tasks under its contract. 1. Refine the work plan for the Medical and Public Services Action Plan. Identify the information which must be gathered to complete the plan and identify milestones. Due end of July 2021. It is now August 2022. Matrix, here's some advice for you. You're going to have to hurry like hell to make that timeline. 2. Update Phase 1 Guam Medical Services Delivery Plan from 2012 in order to better understand Guam's healthcare system and the healthcare services which are provided here. It should identify emerging technological trends and management practices that may apply here. Due end of November 2021. It's time to go to Churchill Downs, and I noticed I've got a couple callers coming in. I hate to run out the clock when I got folks on the line, so I may interrupt myself and take the callers. Let's see, I've got Ken LG and another caller.
Our workforce is changing, and our students need to be prepared to face the challenges that lie ahead.
Real investments in education require real action so that our kids have the best chance to succeed.
We gave teachers a pay raise because we value the important work they do for our children every day.
We provided funds that support children with special needs and their families so that their challenges can be addressed.
We promised to rebuild Simon Sanchez High School, and we are.
We expanded connection to the internet and community programs to empower our children.
We expanded access to training, and we provided scholarships so anyone interested could get certified.
4 years ago, we made these commitments and we delivered.
Let's continue our progress. We are all in this together, and we humbly ask for your vote. This is Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, and I approve this message.
Okay, here we go. Here we are at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. The home stretch, 6 furlongs. I'll cross the finish line, and we will have put another tall tale in the can for today, but we'll be back tomorrow. Now, I've been talking about an article that ran about Gita and Matrix, and it seems that there's a disconnect here about the planning for the new hospital and new health facility. I mentioned Ken's name one time as I was going through this. I've got Ken on the line, and I also have another Joe, and I want to get them both in before the show's over. I may have to come back to the rest of this article tomorrow. So what can you tell me, Ken?
Well, I did a walk-in review of files on Monday. I went in there and demanded to see the files on the Blue Continental Healthcare Medical City Group, Guam Regional Medical Center, and this proposed bond, the private activity bond. Because when I did a FOIA in November, when the story first broke about selling the GRMC, I did a FOIA to see what documentation existed on the private activity bonds, because they kept talking about how it was no risk to taxpayers of Guam. And that's an alarming thing to hear, because they said the same thing about Guam Resource Recovery and the waste energy plant, but in the contract that Eddie Calvo signed, the bonds were recourse against government of Guam and Gita and secured to the general fund. But every time you hear someone from GRRP talk, oh, no, those are private activity bonds. Taxpayers aren't at risk unless you read the contract. So that's why I wanted to read the contract. I got a letter from Gita saying that there are no documents that exist at this time. So I went and listened to the recording of the public hearing. And in the space of 37 minutes, Melanie Mendiola is all ready to submit a report to government of Guam recommending approval of private activity bond, even though there's no documentation. We don't know who this company is. I found out later the company was just formed in July 21, and they're already out of good standing through non-payment of taxes. So there's all kinds of shady things that are circling around this whole proposed private activity bond. And my biggest fear is that taxpayers are going to end up holding the bag on $1 billion deal, as if we didn't have enough, right? So they couldn't provide the documents. And they had excuse after excuse after excuse. And I was running up to a dental appointment. So I told them I'll be back on Friday. And we'll see how it goes there. But I called today, and they're still in the process of assembling files. This blows my mind, because in all the FOIAs I did with Calvo, Gita at Calvo, they have a room. It's full of file cabinets. All the files are in this room, and they would send a administrative assistant in there and pull out any file I want to look at. Apparently, it requires approval of the deputy director, a manager, and a few other people before they're able to locate where these alleged files are, which should be another red flag for taxpayers.
Well, Ken, you know that the statute says that you can inspect public records at any time. Anybody could walk in off the street and ask to see any public record, and there's directions to the agencies. You've got to keep your records in such a manner that you can comply with these requests. So whenever I see something like this, and I'm dealing with one myself where, hide the ball is the name of the game. Yeah. Whenever I see something like this, it seems obvious to me that they don't want you to see those public records, because something is going to be embarrassing for somebody.
Well, I'm going to go back tomorrow because, like I said, Monday when I went, I was out against the dental appointment. And then yesterday I had some other activities I had to address. And so I told them no later than noon Friday, but as soon as possible. And then I called them today to let them know that I'm going to be coming in tomorrow to look at the files.
What were you going to say, Jose?
Had 2 days.
Ken, I have a question for you. When you go into the office next time, get the name of the person you ask, because that person is responsible for fulfilling that request. And I think that would give it a little bit more of a priority-wise, because that person's name is now on the record for denying you these records.
Well, I've got it recorded on a video that I posted on my point of view on Candid Monday at lunch. Because what I did is I recorded this whole conversation with the 2 different managers and administrative assistants. I videoed.
Do you know their names, Ken?
I posted it.
Do you know their names?
Cedric. I'm going to slaughter his last name, but Casilion and Edward Camacho.
See, because if you know their names and you mention or you post it on Facebook, we can make them famous. So that they understand that there's a downside risk in playing hide the ball with a citizen, even if their boss tells them
they
to do that.
They can't pass it off to their boss. They're now responsible for denying it.
Exactly.
Well, there's a video recording of it at the beginning of my post.
I got it, Ken. So I'm going to have to say goodbye so we can get another Joe on the air before closing time, okay?
Well, I'll let you know how it goes tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Ken.
I'll be there before your show.
All right, thanks a lot. Another Joe.
Sir.
Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
Oh, thank you, sir. I apologize. It's really interesting information being shared there. So, Bob, I got a suggestion that I'll give for free regarding the hospital and their confusion as to whether they should build a hospital and where they should build it and this and that and the other thing. Well, why don't they declare eminent domain over the GRMC and give them the going market rate, pay them good price, and develop that into the Public Guam Hospital, and then in the process of developing that hospital, turn around, knock down the old GMH, or the second GMH rather, and rebuild an excellent hospital in that very same spot that could last for another maybe 50 plus years. I don't know. What
are you going to use it? You're going to use an eminent domain on GRMC?
Is that possible, or is that not possible?
Theoretically, it's possible, but where are we going to get the money?
Well, they're planning to spend the money anyway, right? They want to build a hospital somewhere.
Yeah, well, I see what you're saying. Interesting.
Let's help them out. There is something that the governor said to the medical professionals at the beginning of the pandemic, talking about the health emergency, which we still are in, that she can do anything and they have no say.
That's right.
There you go.
Okay,
go up. Thanks for your time. I'll keep listening.
She said it more than once, didn't she? Yeah. We have no say. Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, good talking to you. Jose?
Shouldn't give them any information. It shouldn't give them any ideas that just to take over GRMC.
Yeah. All right. See, I got about 3 minutes to go, Jose? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to finish up this article, but I don't want to do it any more piecemeal than what I have to. I brought the Elkhorn Independent with me here today. The old hometown Independent, hometown newspaper. There's an interesting article, a letter to the editor in there. And it's about the governor of Wisconsin. It's a guy named Richard Peterson, who writes, in Wisconsin, one of Governor Evers' goals is to reduce prison population by 50%. In Milwaukee, with District Attorney John Chisholm and liberal judges armed with policies including low bail, and early release for violent criminals, Evers has a chance. Car theft and carjacking are treated like a game of teenagers play with cops. Stealing a car, I believe, is a Class 10 felony with a 12.5 years prison sentence. Laws are put in place but ignored. Evers' choice to head the parole commission was about to release a man who hadn't served half his sentence. He murdered a woman by stabbing her 40 times in front of her 2 small children. Low bail for a criminal who drove through the Waukesha parade killing or injuring 60 innocent victims. I remember that. But that never made the national news, did it? And, well, it did.
For like a second.
CNN covered it, and they said that an SUV had run through the crowd. And, of course, the reason that it never got any press because the optics were wrong. All of the people that were in the Christmas parade were white, and the driver of the car that just plowed into them, killed 9 of them and injured a bunch of them, was a person of color. So there's no news there. So I'm not going to read the rest of this article, but it just goes to show you that leaving in January perhaps could run for district attorney somewhere or attorney general somewhere else after he loses this election.
At least Madison.
Yeah, Madison. He'd be fit right in Madison, wouldn't he? So I think it's about time for me to say goodbye to our president. Let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3 and 104.3 HD3.
Loan forgiveness may be imminent. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. An announcement expected sometime today from the White House.
The precise details of the Biden plan, which include a cap limiting the forgiveness to folks who earn less than $125,000 a year, frankly, are being kept to a fairly small circle within the administration. Apparently, they still haven't finalized all the details ahead of the announcement. Now, the long-delayed move would forgive up to $10,000 in federal student loans for many Americans and extend a pause on payments to January. That, according to three people familiar with the plan.
Fox's Kevin Corke. The president had proposed canceling student loan debt during the presidential race. Opponents say that would add to federal spending and would make people who didn't go to college pay the tuition of some who did through higher taxes. In Tuesday's primary elections, New York Congressman Jerry Nadler beating fellow longtime Democrat Carolyn Maloney. They'd been thrown together in the same New York congressional district, redrawn by congressional boundaries. And Jerry Nadler telling supporters he will have a mandate on what he considers to be crucial issues.
Gun violence permeates every corner of our country. And with sea levels rising and temperatures soaring, our future on this planet has never been more at risk.
In Florida, Democrat voters have picked Congressman Charlie Crist as their candidate to try and unseat incumbent Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. Democrat Congresswoman Val Demings has been chosen to run for the Senate in Florida against incumbent GOP Senator Marco Rubio. In Oklahoma, Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen has won the Republican primary to run for the Senate seat from which James Inhofe is retiring. Mullen will face cybersecurity executive Madison Horn in November. U.S. Central Command says they've launched airstrikes against Syrian-backed groups in Syria to protect U.S. forces.